These are the composition of functions interactive notes. Compositions of functions are also known as nested functions. Nested functions kind of gives you the idea that you're putting a function inside of another one. So the composition of the function f with the function g could be written like this, where you've got f, an operator g of x. This could also be read f of g of x, and can be written f of g of x. So you can see that the g of x is inside of the f of x function. So we're going to start with this example. Given f of x equals x plus 2 and g of x is 4 minus x squared, find f of g of x, and then we're going to evaluate the composition f with g of x at the value 3. So we're going to begin with f of g of x, and I'm going to write this in red in here. And so you can see a little bit clearly as I go across here, we're going to do f of, and we're going to replace the g of x with whatever it's equal to. G of x equals 4 minus x squared. So I'm going to be replacing g of x with what it's equal to, 4 minus x squared. And that can then be evaluated inside of the f of x function. So this is my input for the f of x function. So wherever I see an x, this is something plus 2. I like to say the f of x equals something plus 2. This is my something. So it's going to be something plus 2. And I input that something as 4 minus x squared. I'm trying to keep the colors consistent here. So now inside the parentheses, there's nothing to work out. So we can drop them and we can combine our like terms. And we get negative x squared, 4 plus 2 is 6. And so our f of g of x function is negative x squared plus 6. So that's our composition function. Okay, now if we're going to evaluate that function at 3, then we're just going to be plugging 3 into our composition function. So what that looks like is f of g of 3, I could write it like that, is going to be negative of 3 squared plus 6. Now notice that's not negative 3 squared, it is negative of 3 squared is 9, so negative 9 plus 6, and that comes out to be negative 3. So the f of g of 3 is equal to negative 3. Now the composition of the function g with the function of f is the same process of nesting a function inside of a function. Just notice that the order is different. You're doing g of f of x. So this can be written g of f of x with the f of x function nested inside of the g of x function. For example, we're going to use those same exact functions, f of x equals x plus 2 and g of x equals 4 minus x squared, and find g of f of x. And then we're going to evaluate that at 3, and we'll see what happens. So, g of f of x looks like the f of x function nested inside of g of x. So when I do g of, the f of x function is x plus 2, I will replace that there. And then I'm going to evaluate the g of x function here with x being x plus 2. So now I'm going to replace this x with x plus 2. So when I read g of x here, I see 4 minus something squared. So 4 minus something squared, and I'm going to fix that too. 4 minus something squared. That something that's being squared now is not x, it's x plus 2. And then I am going to just simplify that out. So it looks like 4 minus, be careful here because x plus 2 squared means x plus 2 times itself. So you're going to have to FOIL x squared plus 4x plus 4. And of course I am quick foiling that. If you need a tutorial on foiling, just ask or look that up. And once I have 4 minus my new trinomial here, I need to be careful about my signs. It's minus x squared, it's minus 4x, and it's minus 4. Everything gets subtracted there. Then I can combine my like terms. So 4 minus 4 is 0, and I'm left with negative x squared minus 4x. So the composition of g with f of x is negative x squared minus 4x. Now that's different than the composition of f with g. The fog is different than the Goff. Now if we evaluate this function at 3, it's going to look like g of f of 3. And while we could go through the steps with that, evaluating it in the f of x function and then in the g of x function, I can just go ahead and use my composition function, negative x squared minus 4x. So that means I've got negative of 3 squared minus 4 times 3.